Welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln on this Sunday morning, March 10th. Daylight savings time. You are here, so your clocks changed or your smartwatches did that for you. If you are on the live stream, congratulations, you are here, hopefully in your pajamas, because my watch still says it's 9 o'clock in the morning. But regardless of how you've come here, of what time your body is telling you it is, where you have come from, where you are going after this service, know that you are welcome in this place. We say here that the Unitarian Church of Lincoln aspires to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and the world. So however that looks, the one thing that we know for sure is that it begins with welcome. We welcome all who come through our doors on this day and in every day. We begin our worship every time we gather by lighting a flaming chalice, the symbol of our shared Unitarian Universalism. And so I'd like to invite our worship associate, Mary Kay Stillwell, to come forward, do a reading, and light the chalice.
Good morning. This morning's chalice lighting is a short poem, I Am Learning, by Victoria Erickson. Guide your heart to your throat and open. Empty your ghosts. Let the words catch air and set fire to the horizon. Run toward the warmth of it. We must learn to be braver. Our first hymn this morning is When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, 10:08 in the Teal Hymnal. Please stand in body or spirit.
If anyone would like to come forward for the story, you're welcome to do so now. Our story today is called The Happy Caterpillar, and it is adapted from a book called The Wings of Change by Franklin Hill. Before there were books, and before there were pages, before there were churches, and before there were sages, there were stories. And this one begins, as many do, with Once Upon a Time. Once upon a time, there was a fuzzy little caterpillar with 8 pairs of legs and yellow stripes. He was a jolly little fellow who was so delighted with his life that everyone called him Happy. Happy loved everything about being a caterpillar. He loved crawling up trees with his buddies. He loved how the afternoon breeze ruffled his black antenna, and how delicious the sweet green leaves tasted as he chewed them to his heart's content. He had plenty to eat, soft places to sleep, and good caterpillar friends to play with. This is the life, Happy thought. I never want this to change. Change had been on Happy's mind a lot recently. You see, it was a time of butterflies, and lately one of them had begun stopping by the garden to talk with Happy and his caterpillar friends. She told them stories about her own life back when she was a little caterpillar. She seemed a little wistful about it sometimes. Happy's friends were always glad to see the butterfly and to hear her adventurous tales. They applauded when she performed dances on the wind for them. Happy didn't tell his friends that her acrobatics made him a little sick to his stomach. Thank goodness I do my traveling slowly and close to the ground, he thought. Happy loved his life. One day, the butterfly gathered the young caterpillars around her. I have other places to go, she said, some pollinating to do, but before I leave, I have a poem to share and one more story to tell you. The butterfly gave a little cough, straightened her wings, and then began to recite. Wings of change are on the way. When they'll come, few can say. All will change and some will grow. All will feel and some will know. She then told them the most amazing story she had spun yet. A story about something called a chrysalis and all the miraculous changes that they could expect when they too became butterflies. Her words painted glowing pictures of courageous struggle, brilliant colors, strong and beautiful wings, and the ability to soar, to see things she otherwise would never have seen had she stayed close to the ground. When the butterfly finally flew away, most of the caterpillars found themselves very excited about what lay ahead for them. But Happy, he was just dazed. He didn't understand what the butterfly meant. All would change. He didn't want to change. His life was pretty good. It was comfortable, familiar. He liked who he was and where he was, mostly. Why on earth or sky would he want to become a butterfly? Happy decided he would just enjoy his life as a caterpillar while his friends all worked themselves up about the future that awaited them. One night, Happy had a strange dream. In it, his body was very thin. He had 6 spindly legs and brilliant butterfly wings, but instead of flying, he was crawling like a caterpillar, causing his thin legs to hurt and tearing his fragile wings under a thorn bush. Happy woke with a fright. I really need to talk to someone about this, he said to himself. He crawled about looking for his friends, but it took some time, and finally he found another caterpillar friend, Millie, hanging upside down from a milkweed plant. Millie, I need to tell you about my dream. Millie listened and then, not unkindly, referred Happy to her therapist. a gentle old grasshopper who had helped her through her abandonment issues. But Happy didn't want to see a therapist. Millie reminded Happy of the butterfly's poem. Wings of change are on the way. When they'll come, few can say. All will change and some will grow. All will feel and some will know. I don't like this one bit, Happy said as he watched Millie move around, contorting this way and that on the milkweed. But he stayed with his friend and gazed with wide eyes as she shed her skin and changed into a chrysalis. All right, all will change and some will grow, he recited. Happy was scared. He knew that change was inevitable. So he talked to the grasshopper therapist. He laid down on a leaf and shared his worries, his fears, his reasons for resistance. After talking and thinking things through, Happy felt a bit better and treated himself to some ice cream afterwards and laid down to rest his tired brain. That very night, Happy attached himself to the milkweed and did what his body was meant to do. More than a week went by. He had many bizarre dreams and awoke several times at 3 a.m. And then one day, Happy awoke and emerged from the chrysalis. He was now a butterfly with the most beautiful wings you ever did see. Change didn't come easily for Happy. It took him a while to get used to flying, and ultimately he did find it was kind of enjoyable once he got over the motion sickness. He did still have anxiety and regularly returned to the grasshopper for check-ins. He started finding out all sorts of things about life that he never knew as a caterpillar, and the more he learned, the more he realized how much he didn't know. Every once in a while, Happy would fly down to the garden to perform and tell stories to a new batch of caterpillars. He'd watch wistfully as they climbed trees and nibbled the sweet grass. And then with a pang in his heart, he would recite for them the poem that he had learned from a wise butterfly when he himself was a caterpillar. And so ends the story of the happy caterpillar, and perhaps begins the story of the happy butterfly. And that is the end of our story. Children are dismissed back to their classroom.
Well, good morning. My name's Jason. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees, and I want to offer a special welcome to those of you who are visiting for the first time. So please join me later on after the service for coffee and conversation in the gallery. So the announcements this morning, the fourth and final lecture is tonight on Zoom at 7 p.m. For the final winter lecture. Tonight's focus is on Brazil. The Zoom link was in the Friday's e-blast. Now, the Unitarian Church of Lincoln is a proud member of Justice in Action. Justice in Action is working to expand access to pretrial diversion, affordable housing, and mental health services. So save the date. Put it on your calendar, Monday, April 8th, for the Solutions Briefing Rally. We also we would like to have or need 150 of us Unitarians to sign up and attend the Nehemiah Assembly on Thursday, May 2nd. The sign-up sheet is just posted on the near door by the back patio. We have people that have signed up. We'd like to see more names on there. So go ahead, take some time and sign up. Now, if you have other questions or would like for more information, just please stop by the church office after service and they'll be more than happy to give you that information. So, as a central part of our services is this time we join together as a community to mark the moments of our lives. We share with one another our joys, our sorrows, the events that mark the steps of our own personal journeys. The thread of sorrow and those of joy are intertwined in the fabric of our lives, present for all, remembered by all. We share those threads, and then they are woven together with those of others in our communities. Our joys are shared and magnified, and we are comforted in our own sorrows. I invite those that are watching on the YouTube stream today to go ahead and type in our chat, or here, if you're here today, share in this shared space your name or the name of another you wish to remember today in sorrow. Jala. The people of Palestine.
People of Ukraine.
The people of Ukraine by two people today. Nothing in chat. Thank you. Now I'm going to invite, again, for people viewing online to go ahead and post in the chat, or again, speak in the shared space, your name or the name of another you wish to remember. Enjoy.
Granddaughter Kaylee, who turned 10 on Thursday.
Granddaughter Kaylee, who turned 10, double digits.
My nephew Andrew.
Your nephew Andrew.
Kirsten's birthday is today, and I'm also going to be grandma again September 7th.
Kirsten's birthday, who's today, and then Marsha's going to be a grandma again on what date again? September 7th. Your sister Ada. She's going to be turning 19 this year. August, all right.
Well, sorry, October. My birthday's in August. And my dad's birthday's in August. And my aunt's birthday.
Sounds like August is going to be a busy month for you guys.
It always is.
Great, thank you. In our chat today, Erica Rios, Amy Berkey, she's remembering Enjoy. The Lincoln Symphony Orchestra. We have a thing in chat. Linda Brown is saying, seeing Bob Fusen playing Gershwin on a huge saxophone with a symphony last night. I think that's probably what you're referring to.
Who's Bob Fusen?
Bob Fusen is our music director here. Julie Anderson in Cabaret. I think she's our choir director. And today, I think today's the last day. If it's not so, I don't know if there's any tickets left. You might want to check it out, 2 p.m. Now, we know that there are some joys, some sorrows that have yet to be unspoken, but they're still deeply felt. Let us hold a moment of silence for everything that's been unspoken. Thank you for your presence. Now, please remain seated and join me in singing our hymn for the month, Singer of Life. It's in our hymnal 196.
Each week, we take up a collection to support the work of the church and our partners in the community. We do this because just as we all grow from our participation in this community, we all give back through our time, our talent, and our treasure. To give, you can text UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. That's UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256. The offering will now be gratefully received.
As the ushers come forward to collect the offering, the ushers will also be distributing raisins. Please do not eat the raisins yet. They are a prop for the sermon. But please take raisins as they go by you, because you will need them for the sermon. Unless you are allergic to raisins, in which case, I'm sorry. If you are on the live stream, please get something that you would be able to eat or drink during the sermon. So, transformation is the theme of the month. And today we're talking about transforming ourselves, which is not an obvious theme in 2024. Why would we need to transform ourselves? Every Sunday morning we gather in this room, and usually at the beginning of the service, someone, usually me, reads the vision statement of this church, which ends with to transform ourselves and transform the world. We'll talk more about that last part in 2 weeks. We talk more about it just in our time together. I suspect if you polled a group of Unitarian Universalists on how they were working to transform the world, you would not lack for answers. Everything from driving an electric car to community organizing to editing the NAACP newsletter, we are good at transforming the world. Although we will come back to what it means to be good at that in 2 weeks. But what about the transforming ourselves part? That's harder, right? Surely that's not actually necessary. I mean, we've ended up here on a Sunday morning, the pinnacle of personal and spiritual development. The Unitarian Church of Lincoln on May 10th of 2024. No transformation necessary. We have figured it out. We are enlightened, right? There's a story in the Christian scriptures about the start of Jesus' ministry. And the story goes that when he's in his early 30s, he goes from Nazareth to the River Jordan, and he's baptized by John the Baptist. And as he is baptized, there's a moment when suddenly the divine is present. In some accounts, the heavens open. In others, a dove descends. In most, a voice is heard saying, "This is my son whom I dearly love. I find happiness in him." This seems like the end of the story, the end of the beginning of the story, a dramatic moment of transformation where Jesus the carpenter, Mary's boy, becomes Jesus the anointed who will transform the world. But that's not actually how the story goes. As soon as he is baptized, the story has it, Jesus is led by the Spirit into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights, where he prays, fasts, and is tempted. These 40 days of intentional spiritual practice are the basis of Lent, the season in the Christian religious calendar that we're in right now, the 40 days before Easter, a time of deepening and prayer. The idea is that those 40 days and 40 nights, whether in the literal wilderness for Jesus or the metaphorical wilderness for us, can be an opportunity to connect with the deepest parts of ourselves and our connection to the divine, and in doing so, emerge in some way transformed. That story is personally meaningful for me because many of my deepest spiritual experiences have happened in the wilderness. 12 months ago, during Lent, Stacy sent me into the wilderness for a week, reminding me that I was not on sabbatical to stay around the house, take care of our child, and cook, although she appreciated all of those things. She pushed me to go walk across Scotland on the West Highland Way, a 96-mile stretch of wilderness from Glasgow to Fort William. I've talked about those long walks of my sabbatical before, but here's the part that's important for this Sunday. They were opportunities for me to do my own spiritual practices, to spend time in prayer. Walking for hours is a kind of embodied meditation. For me, it's an opportunity to quiet the mind and be present with the still, small voice of the heart. It was a chance to discern what my next steps of ministry might be, to spend time with my ancestors. Late in that week of walking, I spent a few hours in conversation with my late mentor, Gene Pupke. By that, I mean not a supernatural conversation, right? But a chance to have the time to know, to remember what she would say to the questions that I was asking, and to be present with her memory and her personality in that moment when everything else was quiet. By the 5th day of walking, Jean felt very, very present on that trail with me. Before she died, she would often push me to get more involved in denominational work beyond Lincoln, Nebraska. So when I got off the trail, I threw my hat in for a few national volunteer opportunities at the UUA. Who I want to become was informed by that time in the wilderness, that time of just being present with who I am and where I am going. Lindsay and Antonio are going to play a piece of music now, and as they do, I want you to close your eyes and imagine what your wilderness is. It might be a bit of woods or prairie where you feel your mind quiet and your spirit deepen, or it may be the seat of your car in the Super Saver parking lot, listening to some music and taking a few deep breaths before getting groceries. Wherever it is, as the music plays, think about what that wilderness means to you. How do you get there? And how, once you are there, do you start to find transformation?
Our reading today is by Angus M. McCormick. Make us stilled. O living spirit within us all, speak to us in the silence of the crowd, the silence of our inner echoes. Holy Spirit, help us to pour out what good lies within us, whether it be silent exchange with other souls or taking another's hand and holding it, knowing it is your will. Ever-present Spirit, convert our isolation into relationships, and our relationships into everlasting ties that bring peace and beauty. Remain in us unstilled until you make us stilled.
So there's transformation that happens in the wilderness. Big scale personal transformation, becoming a butterfly after being a caterpillar. Where we are not, who we are is not who we become. In our reading last week, Dan Hotchkiss talked about how no one stands on holy ground and is not transformed. But transformation doesn't always look like that. For the rest of this morning, we're going to talk about spiritual practices. And transformation through spiritual practices doesn't always look like mountaintop experiences. Sometimes, most times, it looks like this. This is a toothbrush with Rapunzel and Moana on it because Ailish had a doctor's appointment last week. Spiritual practices as toothbrushes. Okay. So transformation in a religious setting is driven by spiritual practices. Here's what I mean by that. Spiritual practices are the activities that we do that connect us more deeply to the source of meaning in our lives. Activities that we do that connect us more deeply with the source of meaning in our lives. Now, because we are a pluralistic faith, that means different things for different people. So here's a not rhetorical question. If I am saying spiritual practices, what are some of the things that come to your mind that I might be talking about? Meditation. Okay. Writing cards to shut-ins. Baking cookies. Singing, music. Walking. Nature. Reading. Going to the park. So all of these things that ground us, whatever your sense of meaning is, it might be meditation, it might be reading, it might be journaling, it might be gardening, being present to the good earth. For me, it often means time in prayer. So try to think for a moment, if you weren't one of the people that speak, about what that is for you. Or if you do not have one, what a practice might be for you. Paying attention. Okay. So now back to the toothbrush. Spiritual practices and the transformation that comes with them are a lot like dental hygiene. Assume that you brush your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes each. Over the course of a year, that is 24 hours and 20 minutes of toothbrushing. Now, what would happen if you decided to take a dental health retreat, say on January 5th, and did nothing other than eat, sleep, and brush your teeth for 8 straight hours a day for 3 days? you're done, right? That's all the oral hygiene you need for the year. You have met your quota, knocked it out. Your dentist will be pleased with you as soon as they fix the gums that you have scrubbed raw. Spiritual practices are like this. They build over time, lots of little moments contributing to the health of our souls. We sometimes think of them as these things that we do all at once. We go on a meditation retreat. We go on vacation. We set aside one day where we're just going to read that book. But that's like trying to fit 8 hours of toothbrushing into a single day and then not have to do it again for 3 months. Might feel really good in that day, might rub your teeth raw in that one day, but it won't actually help your own health. You can carry this metaphor longer. Often we pick up our toothbrushing habits from childhood, right? They vary from person to person. Some folks change the tools they use over time. Sometimes a dentist says, hey, have you ever considered using an electric toothbrush? When we don't cultivate the habit, sometimes unpleasant things happen. I have never met anyone who has enjoyed their last filling or root canal. Sometimes teaching your kids good toothbrushing habits, Moana, is a pain in the butt, but a thing that you do for their future health and flourishing. See, all of that is about brushing your teeth, but it is also about meditation. Transformation doesn't need to come from an intense experience where you pack a year's worth of metaphorical toothbrushing into just a few days. It can come just as often after months or years of relatively simple practice. So keeping it to the grounded theme this morning, now we're going to eat some raisins. This is a classic mindfulness meditation. Has lots of authors. I'm not sure who the first one was, but this is a version by Ross Clark. And the idea here is not to have a deep, transformative mountaintop experience, but to see how even the most mundane thing can be a spiritual practice. Why raisins? Because they are easy to find. They don't often trigger food sensitivities and aren't usually the objects of mindfulness. So, take out your raisins. If you don't have raisins on the live stream, any food will do. You can even do this with a cup of water if you want. And put a couple raisins in your hand. And as you look at them, imagine that you have just come to Earth from a distant planet without such food. Now, with this in your hand, you can begin exploring it with all of your senses. Focus on one of the objects as if you have never seen anything like this before. Really see it. Scan it, exploring every part of it. Turn it around in your fingers and notice what color it is. Notice the folds and where the surface reflects light or becomes darker. Now explore the texture. Feeling any softness, hardness, coarseness, or smoothness. What does it feel like? And while you're doing this, if thoughts arise such as, why am I doing this weird exercise? How will this ever help me? I hate raisins. See if you can just acknowledge those thoughts, let them be, then bring your awareness back to this object in your hand. Now take it beneath your nose and smell. Notice the smell of it. Bring it to one ear, squeeze it, roll it around, hear if there is any sound coming from it. Begin to slowly put it in your mouth. Noticing how the arm knows exactly where to go. Perhaps become aware of your mouth watering. Or if you do not like raisins, perhaps become aware of your mouth puckering. Gently place it in your mouth. Place it on your tongue without biting it, or if you've already eaten the raisin, get another raisin and place it on your tongue without biting it. Simply explore the sensations of this particular object in your mouth. And when you're ready, intentionally bite down. Be noticing how it automatically goes to one side of the mouth or another. Notice the taste that it releases. Slowly chew. Be aware of the saliva in your mouth and how the object changes in consistency as you chew. And then, when you feel ready to swallow, try to consciously notice the intention to swallow. Then see if you can notice the sensations of swallowing the raisin. Sensing it move down your throat, into your esophagus, into your stomach. You have just taken 5 minutes to eat a raisin. The practice of mindfulness meditation is the practice of being present to the thing that we are doing right now. So as Lindsay and Antonio play another piece of music, eat another raisin. And be present to the sound and to the taste. So transformation work is hard, even if it just involves eating raisins. It's easy to say, standing up here on a Sunday morning, oh, just do a mindfulness practice for 2 minutes a day, a year, and see where that gets you. Or to talk about mountaintop experiences while hiking in Scotland. But the thing I want to leave you with this morning is that transformation is not a linear thing. We don't get to predict where it goes. It's not the case that we do spiritual practices and find ourselves transformed and find life better in every way. Right? It's not the case of going up and to the right on the line graph of life. It's about deepening our spirits, getting to know ourselves better, connecting with the source of meaning. Dan Hodgkiss, in our reading last week, wrote that religion at its best is no friend of the status quo. Religion transforms people. No one touches holy ground and stays the same. Congregations create sanctuaries where people can nurture and inspire each other with results no one can predict. Often we want to predict them. Often we want this story to be simpler. There's a simple and straightforward way to tell the story that I started with. I went on sabbatical while hiking in the wilderness, spent time in imagined conversation with my mentor, and based on that experience, came home and volunteered to serve on the UUA Board of Trustees. That is a true story. What is also true is that I found out on Wednesday that the UUA Nominations Committee decided that the time was not right for me to serve on the UUA board, among other things derailing the sermon that I was in the midst of writing considerably and leading to this conclusion that this isn't a linear process. Sometimes stories of transformation do not proceed as straightforwardly as we might like. It is not always, or even often, a straightforward process. Sometimes it feels like going around in circles saying, why do I keep eating raisins? But even when we are doing that, even when we feel like we are going in circles, it is an opportunity to go deeper. So last practice. Somebody mentioned this one earlier. We're going to sing together. This last piece that we're singing this morning is from the Taizé tradition, which uses simple songs repeated at length as a kind of meditation. The lyrics are Latin, but there aren't many of them. It goes like this: Ubi caritas et amor, ubi caritas Deus ibi est. Where charity, caritas, and love, amor, are, there is God, Deus ibi est. Now, caritas is more than charity, but that's another sermon. It is love unconnected with the self. So, when love in all its forms is present, there we find God. And as we sing this, sing it like you are eating a raisin. Sing it hearing to the voices around you, hearing your own breath, listening for how you connect with the song. Not just as a song, but as a practice you are present to, that you can come back to over time and find yourself transformed. Now, a Taizé song, we are going to sing this probably 7 or 8 times through because it is very, very short. So you just sing it as a meditation and keep going back to the beginning as we circle around and go deeper. Would you please rise in body or in spirit and join in singing hymn 1048, there we go, Ubi Caritas. So as we go forth from this place, I will not say go forth transformed, because it does not work that way. Go forth knowing the possibility of transformation, knowing the impossibility of predicting it, knowing that the thing that we do here when we gather is to open up that possibility and be present to it. Go in peace, go in kindness, and go in faith. Amen.